Dascha Polanco. How
Ah,
are you?
I'm good. I'm
Looking
good.
good, looking spicy during these quarantine times. I mean, it's been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, how could I put this into words? The emotions that I've been feeling from the moment that this year began. It's such a year of revelation and a year of like just we're in the age of awakening, and this is like the pivotal, like the most prolific time. What a
Right.
time to be alive, but it is. To
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I read your story. As you know, or if you don't know, I'm an emergency physician or ER doctor. That's depending on who you talk to, right, in the streets.
Hmm.
But we have a lot in common. We definitely have a
Yeah.
lot in common. For one, the both of us are from New York.
Yeah.
Um, Two, we both graduated from Hunter College. Three, the both of us were teen moms.
Yes.
Four, even though I graduated and I completed my medical studies, my initial medical training back home in Cuba, but you were studying to become a nurse and you worked in hospital administration at Montefiore Hospital. So we definitely had a lot in common. I was like, wow, it seemed like
Yes.
our stories are very similar. And first of all, me encanta. Like your love, the Brown Love podcast. I mean, I love your podcast, con todo. What why did you decide to host this platform? Tell us about the show.
Well, just to piggyback off what you said when I was reading your story as well, it's just how many times have you felt alone?
Yeah,
And you're like, damn, I'm the only teen mom. You feel like you're the only one going through it. You don't realize how many women out there are
right,
experiencing the same thing. And there's usually not an outlet. There's not a support group.
right,
So thankfully now we're in different times where we can join social media, and we can seek out, and there's stories that are more popular, and we can lean on, and me having that experience, and I'm sure you as well, as a teen
hmm,
mom, you feel helpless. You feel like, who's out there that can actually support, or where could I go for any type of ayuda, because that's what
right,
it is right in those moments. So
right.
Brown Love was brought to me by Jordan, which is he works at Netflix, and they asked me to host, and I've been wanting to do a podcast.
Hmm.
A podcast that's, everybody wants to be real, everybody wants to talk about, but just really translucent and really vulnerable. And I've always wanted to do that. And I think this is an opportunity for me to begin this and have these conversations of where we have an outlet, where we have resources, where we could go and say, you're not the only one going through this, and we all are experiencing the same thing, and we all learn from each other. Because for me, one of the things that I've noticed during these times the most is the lack of education, of being open-minded, of that sheep mentality. It's like, well, this is what it
Right,
is, and we're all going that way,
exactly.
versus taking a step back and saying, I want to kind of learn why you think that way, and why this happens, and what are the layers to that.
Right.
We're in a crucial time where it's about diversity. It's
Hmm.
funny, diversity is a thing that's a thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
And
why is that
no,
a thing?
right.
It's
It's
like,
not new.
it's it's
It,
like,
like it's been here, but some haven't recognized it. It did not want to acknowledge it. So it's
yeah,
that word is being thrown around like it's like this new phenomenon. I've just been giving people the side eye, like, where have you
yeah,
been?
yeah, exactly. And even in the medical field, I mean, it was me going against nurses, that not going against nurses, but nurses that were set in their ways. So here I
Right.
come managing, a central sterile department, and whether it's infection control, whether it's HIPAA, whether it's the residents. So, you have to like re-educate everyone on how do we not cross contaminate, how do we keep things sterile in the
Exactly.
ER, the code cards. Like I would have to like bring up the code cards, and especially for ER physicians, it's all about timing, and it's all
Right.
about, we need it available. We need a thoracotomy, a tracheotomy. We need a code card. We
That's right.
need.
You speaking my language.
You know what I mean? So all that and the sense of like being always the one that outstands, because it's like, wait, why are you always that one person that outstands, whether it's in your field, whether it's in why are we always so why are we so singled out all the time,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Why? And that was, you know, I think that the Brown Love podcast, it entails so much and so much more to come, because we're trying to be so inclusive and have an array of guests, not just, you know, Netflix talent. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But I definitely appreciate it, and I listened to a couple of episodes, and it did resonate with me. And as a woman of color, especially a woman of African descent, and understanding and being in that space where sometimes you're just the only one, and you don't have that space or allow that time or that space to really talk about the things that we go through, especially as women of color in certain professions. And I know that in medicine, especially, you know, diversity and inclusion are not always existent. And it's very hard. And more of us are talking more about how we're not getting the support and respect, especially as women of color that are doctors. And there's a lot of racism and bias in medicine. I deal with it all the time on not just a professional level, even as a patient, as a woman. And so I totally understand. That's why I started off saying that we have so much in common, and there's so many things that we can do together to work towards dismantling these barriers that we face constantly. And I think, and this is the time right now, I don't care about your title, I don't care who you are, you don't even care if you're a celebrity or not. What can we do together to work towards dismantling these barriers that you and I have faced many times and over again? In 2018, you spoke with Women's Health magazine about your initial struggles with body imaging and how you overcame low self-esteem. And let me tell you something, I certainly identify with you. Can you talk about what steps you took to create a positive body image and how you gained self-confidence?
Well, I tell everybody that confidence and facing your worst enemy in the mirror, right? Because that's your worst enemy. It's the mirror. When you look in the mirror and you allow the negativity to overcrowd your head space, it's a work in progress. And for women, there's so much out there that's transposed into what you should, how you should, why not, you know, like there's so much pressure from the media, from magazines, you know, constant, it's the same people that you see over and over as to what is beauty and the standards that are set, that we constantly look at ourselves and we're like, well, I don't have that, I need to get that. And we're so focused on getting that we're not in the present moment. And I think for me, it was time as a woman, seeing my body change, having a kid at a young age, your body changes like this, you know. So now, you know, it's looked at, oh, you have to be this perfect type of body. You know, then there's trends of like, let's get that BB, what is it, that BB, L,
yeah. Right.
You know.
I know what you're talking about.
And I've seen every type of procedure.
Right.
In the operating room. I've seen every type of procedure, you know. And for me, it was a moment of, I have nothing against a woman wanting to change or look a certain way. I think that it has to be for the reason of your own purpose, right? When we start doing it to fit or to attract, well, if I look this way, I'm going to attract more men, you know, or whoever, or loved ones, or this is what it is to be sexy. I knew that even if I've gone through changes where I've lost weight, I gained weight, and I've seen it around, I still feel that women don't have that confidence. You could see it. So I felt like it's important for me to start working on the inside and telling myself every day in the mirror and saying, you know, I accept myself unconditionally, and starting to practice these things. And I know that they're cliche for people. They're like, oh God, here we go. No, but they're not.
Nope. No, they're not.
If you could tell yourself in the mirror, like I remember telling myself, I'm so fat. If you could tell yourself that in the mirror, then you could tell yourself, you know, I'm beautiful. And
That's
you know, I have like these little stretch marks, and I have these little, like, now I'm getting cellulite, and I'm like, well, you know what it is? This is the process, and this is a journey, and confidence is something that we all have to like help each other with. You know, there's one thing that I notice about people, women especially, we don't acknowledge each other. We could be in an elevator and we don't acknowledge. And sometimes, you know, I live in a building where there's a lot of older women, and when I tell them you're beautiful, it's like, and they're like 70, right? And they're like,
Right.
oh, they're like, I'm beautiful. Oh my God. And I know that right there is something that comes as a surprise, but it makes their day. And I think confidence comes with the support. And first it starts with you. And it's a process. It's about having the patience.
Exactly. And continue loving yourself. Recently, you opened up to People's Magazine about feeling ashamed after getting pregnant at 17. And after your mother's death, you experienced depression, anxiety, and having negative feelings towards motherhood. Can you briefly talk about those feelings? And if so, what advice can you give to our teen mothers that may be struggling with similar issues? And how can we help them?
Well, I think that I am pro-choice, first of all. I think that we have a uterus, and I think it's our body, and we are in control of whatever we want to do, as long as safely, and whatever you believe. You know, I'm like, whatever you believe is what you believe. And at that age, I feared so many things, whether it's my religious belief, being a Catholic, being so many things, right? 17, people are going to look at me. Oh my God, you're pregnant. You're like right out of high school, you know, like, are you going to go to college? Like, what? There's a lot of pressure. And when you think about it, ain't nobody thinking about you at all.
Exactly.
Nobody cares. Really, nobody cares. You're in this world and you could be in a stroll and you're struggling, you're ashamed, but it's you yourself. Because honestly, I spent my time putting myself into unhealthy mental places, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's worry. It was so unnecessary, but yet important to have been able to go through it and to be aware and to use that as fuel. I've always used that as a way of saying, nobody's going to tell me no. I'm going to get things done. It might hurt now, but it's like, you know, it's like that C-section, right? If you have a C-section, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Or you give birth. You're like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to get it and I'm going to get it done. And that's what it is. And I'm going to get over it. Right. And pretty much that's what it was. I mean, I don't remember at that time, I don't remember being able to talk to anybody, even in school at Hunter. People would not even know that I have a kid. They would be like, you're a mother? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a mother. Yeah, okay. And I would be like, does not make a big deal out of it. I'm here, I'm a college student. You know, I couldn't participate in certain things. So you always feel like
an outsider. Yeah, like an outsider. Like you're different from everyone else. Yeah, and it was hard.
Especially, like for me, I wanted to do the nursing in Hunter, but I graduated with the psychology. And I don't know if you know, but it's a school that it has a lot of activities. You could play sports, you could do so many things. I didn't get to like really enjoy them because I had a responsibility. I had to go home, I had to work, and you know, they don't make it for single parents out there. They don't really accommodate you when you're in school. It's like, this is what it is, you know.
What year were you in Hunter College?
I was 2008. I graduated.
Okay, so I was away for medical school. So I was there years before that. Okay, because I was trying to see if you were part of the Dominican Heritage Club or something like that. I was upstairs on the third floor.
I couldn't do it. I wanted to so bad. I couldn't do it.
It's okay.
You know, you have to work. Go ahead.
If you could speak to your 17-year-old self today, what would you say? What advice would you give her?
Don't believe him, man. No. Don't believe him. Don't believe him, girl. Protect yourself.
Right.
No, I think that one of the advice that I always say that I give myself today, and I would give myself then, is do not inherit your parents' choices, and stop trying to save. Stop trying to save or take on the responsibility of your family. I think that I sabotage my 20s. I sabotage myself You know, I
Mhm.
inherited all my parents' problems, and, you know, I took care of my mom when she was ill, and I felt like those are times that I don't want to do that to my kids. Like, I don't put the pressure of that on my kids. And I think culturally that we tend to do that. Like, it's your responsibility. Well, you got to take care of the family now, you know, and it's kind of, it's very, it's very inconsiderate for a
Right.
young, I think, you know, that part of the culture is very inconsiderate. I think you should always give back and help. But when you're in a position where you're so young to take
Right.
on so much, you know, and to cry and to cry and to cry. I mean, I remember like just like having my parents' problems, you know, and it's like I have nothing to do with it. And then the family problems. And it's like, but I have nothing to do with it. But I'm still crying and suffering and suffering and suffering it. And, you know, looking at the world and being very, you know, they always say, oh, women of color are always angry. But it's not you're angry. It's like you're so frustrated. You don't have outlets. You don't, you know, there's not really an understanding as to, I need help. I want to like escape from my reality, because your reality compared to mine just seems so much more, um, I don't want to say easy, but I kind of want to say like fun and free, and you're not limited. But I am. And if I would have allowed that to continue, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's kind of like,
I understand. I totally understand because I've been through that too, and just taking care of my family and just having that pressure, and as being a young adult, and this been going on for years, and you don't have that outlet, and then it leads to the depression and the anxiety. And sometimes you think to yourself, "Where's all these feelings and all these different emotion and anger is coming from?" And then when you sit down and you think about like, "Oh,
yeah,
the
we don't
sins of my
establish
family became
boundaries.
mine."
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't establish boundaries. And I'm learning all this. And, you know, even the thing about being honest and always worrying about, oh my God, what are people going to think? Oh my God, what are people going to think? People, la negatividad. Culturally
Mm-hmm.
where we're from is always like, no le diga a esta gente, because, you know, and that kind of stuff, like stress puts unnecessary stress and tension on you that you don't even understand where it's coming from. Like, I wouldn't
Right.
understand like my need of like wanting to be out there. It was like releasing myself from the weight of what was passed on from my family. Some of us are hedge fund kids, and some of us
Mm-hmm.
are, you know what I mean? And some of
Mm-hmm.
us inherit
Poverty.
financial and poverty and emotional, you know, what I like to call inhibitors. You know, that's
Right.
that's that's what we inherit, inhibit.
The psychological trauma from what we
Yeah,
have been through.
yeah.
Wow. Well, she said we are out of time. But
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
again. God bless you. Take
Sister,
care.
God bless you.
Ten
Bye.
bendiga. Ciao.
Igual.